evening traveler. Pull your chair in a little closer to the iron stove and let the late-night mountain wind settle down outside. My name is Sheriff Silas, and after spending all these years wearing a silver star on the frontier, I have learned that the most puzzling mysteries don't always happen out on the open range, or down in the dark mine shafts. Sometimes the strangest riddles take place right in the middle of town, where everyone thinks they know everything about everybody. Take what happened over at the Blackwood Railway Depot just last winter, a curious affair that nearly caused a full-scale panic over a missing antique pocket watch. Old man Abernathy, our town's veteran station master, who could tell you the exact arrival time of every locomotive within 100 miles just by listening to the rumble of the rails, came walking into my office right before midnight. He looked troubled, setting a heavy brass station key on my desk and staring down at the wooden floorboards. He told me, "Silas, someone didn't just break into the station office. They specifically unlocked the mahogany display case and took the heirloom gold pocket watch donated by the railroad founder, leaving every single piece of cash in the ticket drawer untouched." Now, when a high-value keepsake vanishes from a locked office where only 3 men have access, people are mighty quick to let their imaginations run wild. The townspeople were already whispering accusations against young Arthur, the new telegraph operator who had only arrived from the city a few weeks prior. They said an ambitious young fellow with fast habits was bound to test our patience sooner or later. But in my line of work, you never hang a man's reputation on tavern talk and village gossip. I told Abernathy I would walk down to the rail depot myself and take a close look at the station office, because truth is a quiet thing that leaves behind its own trail if you know how to look for it. When I stepped into the railway depot, the air smelled of coal smoke, hot steam, and oiled timber. The heavy telegraph desk sat beneath a smudged window, holding the brass sounder, a stack of arrival manifests, and the mahogany display cabinet. Abernathy unlocked the inner office door, showing me the velvet-lined case where the gold pocket watch had rested securely just 24 hours before. The glass pane on the front of the case hadn't been shattered by a burglar's hammer or a crowbar. It had been neatly unlatched from the inside using a small, precise instrument. Abernathy swore up and down that only he, young Arthur, and the veteran freight handler named Miller possessed the key to that inner cabinet. Naturally, the townsfolk pointed fingers at Arthur because the boy had been seen walking near the platform late last night carrying a heavy leather satchel. But when I tracked young Arthur down at his boarding room, he wasn't packing saddlebags to run away from the law. He was sitting quietly at a small wooden table practicing Morse code taps with a brass practice key by the light of a single tallow candle. When I asked him about the leather satchel, he smiled calmly, opened the bag, and pulled out a stack of technical railway maps and a heavy book on locomotive engineering. He hadn't been carrying stolen heirlooms at all. He had been studying regional track designs to help improve the station's switching schedule. Arthur didn't steal the gold watch, and he hadn't fled town. That meant the missing timepiece wasn't the work of the young telegraph operator at all. Someone else in that station understood the delicate latch mechanism of the display case, and someone else knew how to slip in and out without disturbing the daily routine. Instead of rounding up suspects, or jumping to hasty conclusions, I decided to examine the physical evidence left behind on the wooden floorboards and the brass equipment around the desk. I sat down at the station master's desk while the oil lamp flickered against the dark timber walls, running my fingers along the dust patterns beneath the telegraph sounder. That was when I noticed something curious about the dust patterns and the arrangement of the paper logs near the window. While young Arthur had a neat, orderly workspace with all his incoming telegrams filed by timestamp, the area near the display case had been recently disturbed by someone wearing boots with a distinct heel-wear pattern, a heavy crescent-shaped scuff on the left sole. More importantly, I checked the maintenance logbook kept in the upper desk drawer. When I turned back the pages to cross-reference who had signed out the small brass jeweler's screwdriver kept in the tool chest, I found that the freight handler Miller had checked it out 2 days prior under the pretense of tightening a loose telegraph arm. But when I looked closely at the telegraph arm, the screws were completely untouched. The only thing in that office that required a fine jeweler's screwdriver was the tiny brass latch on the mahogany display case. Miller hadn't just taken the watch on a sudden impulse. He had been planning the move for weeks, hoping to sell it to an out-of-town collector passing through on the evening freight to settle some heavy debts he had accumulated down at the junction. When I confronted Miller out on the loading platform the following morning with the maintenance logbook and the specific boot print evidence in hand, the man didn't even try to reach for his holster. He simply let out a weary sigh, dropped his head, and admitted that financial trouble had driven him to a very foolish mistake. We recovered the gold pocket watch tucked safely inside an old leather glove hidden behind a stack of firewood in the freight shed, and it was restored to the display case before the midday express train pulled into the station. Old Abernathy and young Arthur cleared the air right there beside the ticket counter, their professional bond growing stronger for having weathered the storm together. You see, partner, people often think that solving mysteries requires a fast gun and a loud voice, but more often than not it is just about checking the floorboards, matching your records, and refusing to let hasty rumors cloud your judgment. The fire in the stove is burning low, and the stars are shining bright and clear over the frontier ridge. Until our next case file is open, keep your ledger clean, your heart steady, and your dealings honest. Good night, partner.